Hi everyone, my name's Jack and I am the chef owner at Fallow restaurant, and I'm here to answer some of your questions today. So the lovely Sophia is going to read them out and I'm going to fire away.
Okay, so what excites you the most about food?
What excites me most about food? Well, to be honest, the thing I love the most is the joy that it brings to people. You know, like part of the reason me and my partner Will wanted to open this restaurant was the cooking is like, you know, it's great, it's fun, it's exciting, but it's standing in the kitchen and cooking and kind of watching the restaurant evolve throughout the day is what really like brings me the passion. It's like, oh, I want to create great food. You see all the guests there enjoying it, and then when they're happy with it, you can see it in their faces. And they come past the kitchen, they come in, they lean in, and they want to talk to you about how you did something and how you created something. That gives me the most pleasure, and that's kind of like one of the main reasons I wanted to be a chef and to have my own restaurant.
Amazing. Where did the name Fallow come from?
So the name Fallow, when me and Will started first thinking about opening a restaurant, we used to sit in the coffee shops in Brixton, like planning and trying to think of like names and how we would even start a business. And I think we came up with two names in the end. One was Bread and Circuses, and one was Fallow. And Fallow just felt right because Will actually does a lot more of the creative stuff. He kind of thought of the name, but it had dual meaning. As you know, obviously the deer, which we always have on the menu in multiple forms. You know, we get about 4 or 5 whole deer a week. It's a major part of our menu, and there's so many different ways we can use it. It goes into our burger. We have the tartare. We do a dish with the loin, and then we use the horns as well. So it really is a very versatile ingredient, something will always feature on our menu. And the second term being the farming term, where you would leave the land to regrow, like a fallow year, which kind of adds into that whole sustainability message, and just felt kind of it fitted our ethos quite well.
How did you first get into cooking?
That's quite an easy one for me. My dad was a chef. So I grew up around food, and he always said, like, don't be a chef, don't do this, it's not a good career. But you know, there was a certain sort of glamour to it I used to see as a kid. You know, like my parents were divorced, so my mum used to drop me off at the hotel where he was working, and I used to wait in the chef's office. And used to see all the chefs running past the office. And I would I'd get to taste the most amazing food, sit in the chef's office and have ice cream and stuff, and I used to love the drama of it all. So really, I kind of aspired to be him, and there was really no other career that I ever really thought of. It's kind of this from the start, really. While we're answering this question, I'm just going to get started. So I'm just going to really whip up one of the snacks on our menu that we've had on since day one. Super simple, but it's the sort of thing which is kind of just the perfect way to start a meal. It's salty, it's delicious, it's kind of got that real umami kick from the seaweed, and it's the only thing we'll ever be able to take it off, really, because it's that popular. So what we're going to do is we're going to take corn, split it in the middle, split it in half, and then split each half into quarters. And then for service, we blanch it in oil in the fryer, 170 degrees, for 3 to 4 minutes, just to break up the cooking time. And then we cool that down, and then during service, we just pop it into a hot fryer, 190 degrees, for about another 2 minutes, to really crisp up the kernels on the cob. So, next question.
Next question. If you were going to start all over again, would you do everything the same?
For me, yes. As I said, you know, I always kind of had the same career. Well, my career was I always knew what I wanted to do, and I think I kind of went about it the right way. Luckily, I had the best guidance. You know, a father who was also a great chef, who could also point me in the direction, and almost he'd done it, so he could give me advice on what to do and what not to do. So I started off with an apprenticeship at 16. 4-year apprenticeship in a lovely hotel in the Cotswolds called Calcott Manor, and then obviously with working in a hotel with many outlets and many different venues, I got to learn everything: bread, pastry, butchery, across 3 different hotels, as well as outside catering, weddings. So it really was like the best start. Nothing particularly, it wasn't super crazy, double two Michelin star standard or anything like that, but it was a solid base. And then I moved to London, worked in a few kitchens around London, settling mostly at Dinner by Heston. I really felt like I got to kind of hone my skills then before branching out on my own. So no, if I was to say would I change anything, I don't think I would.
What's the weirdest thing you've done in the kitchen?
The weirdest thing? Now that's a weird question. I would say, I think when we opened the restaurant here in November, we did a lot of weird stuff. Just because, it's the first restaurant, we didn't realise what kind of goes. And also when we're trying to use byproducts and underused ingredients, you often find yourself trying to think of imaginative ways to do things. I vaguely remember when the kitchen was still a building site, and we had the idea to do a bone marrow dip. Obviously we get the bone marrow, it comes in the bone, so we hollowed them out, we cleaned them, we boiled them in salt to kind of kill all the bacteria. But then there's lots of little holes and sharp edges, so Will borrowed a drill off the builders, attached I don't even know what the contraption you put on the end of the school, but like a sander, massive big one like that, attached it to the drill, and he stood here one night after having a few beers, goggles on, and was just sanding down these bone marrow bones until they were completely smooth. It took about 3 hours, and the smell that came off them was horrendous. But I always remember that being quite a weird sight to see. I never thought I'd be doing that in my own restaurant. Okay, I get this now. So now, I've just got my corn. I'm going to take it out of the fryer. Just going to dry it off on paper to get rid of all of that excess oil. So this is our kombu seasoning, which we make from seaweed, kombu seaweed. And to that we add the brine chili pulp. So it's the leftover pulp that comes from making our sriracha. So we pass it through a fine chinois, fine straining, and we're left with this amazing sort of slightly acidic chili residue, which we dry out in the oven and then blend it into like a fine powder. We mix that with the seaweed, coriander, paprika, salt, and actually we use that as a base seasoning for quite a few things. So we just toss the corn in that, take out the paper, fresh lime juice, just gets squeezed over generously, and then into the bowl, and then we just serve that with a little bit of extra lime, and then you're good to go. There you have it.
Amazing. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.